Hey everybody, this is Timothy Gay here, back with another review, and today we are looking at DOS the Card Game, which is by Mattel, and it's the long awaited sequel to the classic Uno, which has been played for generations and generations, and we finally get to enjoy a sequel. The world's #2 card game on Verified Statistics, so they have a little bit of more sense of humor now, too. So, DOS is played with a deck of cards. It plays 2 to 4 people, and it can vary in time based on how many points you want to set at the beginning of the game for the winner, and I'll get into that in just a minute. Now, to start, we would deal out 7 cards to every player, and I've already done that. So this is my starting hand of 7 cards. My objective is to get rid of every single one of these cards first, and then I would score whatever's left in everyone else's hand at the table. So, you want to do this most efficiently and quickly as you possibly can, and there actually is some really good hand manipulation in this game. Believe it or not, there's a little bit of strategy, not too much, but just enough to really set this game apart. So we've dealt out the 7 cards to everybody, and then you take the top 2 cards on the deck and you create the starting center row. So we would start with a 3 and a 6. Now, you have a few things you can do on your turn, and I'll go through those now. We could take any 6 that match the 6 and match it. Now, you can only match numbers in this game. As opposed to an Uno, you can match color and number. You have to first and foremost match number, okay? It would be nice to match color, and I'll get into that because you get a bonus for matching color. So I could do that. I could also play the 3 on the 3, and that could be my turn. And what I would do is I would discard anything I played on out of the game, and then I would restart it for the next player and draw 2, okay? So that would be one turn. Now I could also do another thing here. Let's see, let's get this started back over here. So we have the 6 there. So that case I did not match any colors, so that wasn't the best move because I have some matching colors here. So for one of my turns I could do the 3, and look at that, it matches color, so I would discard that. I would replace it, but since I matched the color, at the end of my turn I now get to place any card I want to out into the trade row, or center row. Too much Star Realms. So then you see I got rid of 2 cards that way. You could possibly get rid of even more if you played it even better, and I'm going to show you even a better turn in just a second. But that's how you can shed cards quicker, because you match the color. So single color match is that. So now I got rid of that. The next player would of course have a little bit of advantage because they have more options to play on. And you can play as many cards as you have matched. So I could do 1, 2, or 3. You know, a 4, 6, or 3 if I had them on a following turn. So let's go back again, and I'll show you another thing you can do. And this is what you really are hoping you can accomplish, because we can do this. I could play a 1 and a 5 on this, and that adds up to 6. Now I couldn't also play this 3, because if I wanted to play on each stack of cards, you can only do 1 card on each stack. So I could do, you know, that 6 and that 3. But this is the best move because you get a double color match bonus. And what happens there at the end of your turn, just like before, always discard, replace. Everyone else at the table now has to draw a card because you double matched. And then you also still get to add 1 from your hand to that. So that's pretty much it. But there are, of course, the special cards, which you know from Uno. But in this game, there's only 2. Okay? So there's the hashtag card, and there's the Wild 2. The hashtag is, you can pick any number, it's still that color. So I could make this a 3, but it wouldn't match the color. The Wild 2, I can make any color, but it still has to match a 2. But what you end up doing is using that for the adding. So I could do a couple of 2s, you know, to get that 4, or a 4 and a 2. So 2s make a lot of difference because they're very flexible, and you know, you can color match easier. and a 2 matches a 2. If this were out in the center row, you get to choose the color that you would match it to. And the same with this, you'd get to choose the number. But really, you want to get rid of those, and I'll tell you why. Because when somebody goes out in this game, you score just like in Uno. It's first to 200. And so the numerical value on the cards would add up. If they had a 3, 4, and a 6, they'd have 13 that they would give you. Now, if they're stuck with one of these 2s in their hands, that's 20 points. If they're stuck with one of these, it's 40 points. So you don't want to be stuck with one of those, for sure. Because you don't want to be getting stuck with those. You want to get rid of those. So like I said, this game has some really neat, interaction of your hand and setting up future turns, especially at 2-player, because you can put out a third card that like if you put out that third card was the 3, knowing you have another 3 for the next turn if your opponent doesn't play on it, that kind of thing. So you really can try to shed cards in the most efficient manner, and you have a lot of options. The single deck from Uno that everybody's playing on, you don't have as many options to play on. Now in DOS, you've got, I just showed you 2, 3, 4 different ways you could play cards on your turn. And it doesn't get any more complicated because of that. So this is really, really a great game to, if you have people that like simple card games, like Uno, or, Face 10, or all the classic card games, it takes that and really evolves it into a dash of modern gaming. This would be a great card game that you can get people that never play games, get them more interested in more strategic decisions in games. You could play this with practically anybody. I mean, there's no text. There's only 2 special cards. Now that is one thing that I think people might miss is in Uno you get to be pretty mean with the draw 4 wild card, the draw 2, the skip turn. Now you could probably take some of those out of your copy of Uno, and if you put some sleeves on it or something, heaven forbid, that had opaque backing to it, you could mix those in if you really miss those. But I don't think I would like that as much because you wouldn't be able to set your turns up as much. Now one thing that we noticed when we played this a bunch, the higher player count, I would definitely play to 200 points, but when you get down to 2, 200 can go pretty long. So I'd probably say 100 for 2 players, and then 150 for 3, and then 200 for 4. But that's the beauty of it. You can scale how long you want to play the game just by changing that, in-game bonus. Oh, now, one fun thing about Uno is, when you get down to 1 card, you yell Uno before anybody else can. Well, in this one, you get down to 2 cards and you yell Dos. And if you don't say it before someone else at the table, you got to draw 2 cards. So when you're playing cards and sets, you got to do them one at a time. You can't just, and that's any time you get to 2, because there's times where you're going to have to draw a card if you can't match anything. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Now, if you can't match anything at all, or you don't want to match anything, and that's the interesting part in this game. If you don't want to match anything, you would draw a card, and then from your hand, just like the color bonus, you can add any 1 card to the 2 that are already out there. So there's some strategy in holding them. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them in DOS. Now, this game is only at Target right now. I believe until the summer it was like $5, and we just could not stop playing. It's so addictive. It's so fun. It brought me back to my youth, back when I used to play Uno, die-hard Uno with my family. This is one that I will be playing with my daughter, just like I played Uno with my parents and brothers. And I think this deserves some attention for sure. They really did a great job of modernizing Uno. Still love Uno. They're very different games, but they have the same type of spirit where you're rushing to get your cards out. You can also harm your opponents. But to take that in this is a little less direct because you're having to set up that combo rather than just play a card. So highly, highly, highly recommend getting this. And like I said, it's at Target for like $5 or $6. After the summertime, it'll be available everywhere, and definitely go get it. You won't regret it. This one really surprised me. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did, even though I really like Uno. I just didn't know how they could do something that was different enough without overcomplicating things. So that's just go get Dos, Uno Dos, and then I'm waiting on Trace when they release that. I hope they do it, and I hope it doesn't take 30 years to do it. All right, go get it, Dos. Home run. This is a home run right here.